There is a quote from Steve Jobs that says, "Simple can be harder than complex." You have to work hard to keep your thinking clean to make it simple. At first, when you look at simple design or even simple artwork, you might think that it was just so easy to create. While it may seem easy to recreate it because it's so simple, the person who originally created it went through a much more complex process. While it may be easy to copy due to its simplicity, the process behind it was much more complex. This is the beauty of simple design, that hidden detail and thought, that careful and meticulous choice of the right design element in order to communicate in a really precise and exact way that is not overcomplicated and just simple and direct. That ability to pull back and only use what is essential, but to say so much with so little. And doing that is much harder to achieve than you may realize. But when it comes to design, and especially when it comes to your branding as well, the more simple you can create your design, the more easy it is for people to understand it and for you to communicate with people, and you're not bombarding them with a lot of complex things that are confusing. It's about getting your message across in the simplest way possible, and that is a lot harder than many people realize. For starters, there's the mental side of letting go, not feeling like you have to put so much in, and that you not have to prove yourself by, doing lots of things and making it amazing and, over the top to show just how clever you are. Being willing to pull back and just keep things really simple. It takes a certain kind of confidence to design something that's simple, but knowing that it's everything that it needs to be. You're not trying to overcompensate and try to prove what you can do. It's just raw and exposed, and then more open to judgment because you're not trying to hide, some poor typography in amongst all these other graphics going on. It's just so raw, and people can see everything that you've done because you've kept it so simple. And so sometimes people can find it scary to create something that's just so open like that, and that every element really has to matter. Now, there's still a place for decadent, over-the-top design. I'm not saying that simple design is better than more complex design, but when it comes to things like branding, it's really about communication. So the more simply and easily we can communicate a message, the clearer it's going to be, and the more likely we are to really connect with people. So having the ability to be able to create things simply is a really great skill to have. So if you're creating something that could be expressed more simply, but you find that you keep adding more things to try and make it better, then trying to master the skill of designing simply will really help you. So in today's video, we're going to talk about designing more with less, so that you can become better at designing more simply and minimally, so that you can communicate what you want to communicate so much more strongly and directly for better brand graphics. Visual design is basically communication design. When you're designing your branding, when you're designing graphics for your business, what you're actually designing is communication. Communication that's visual. So let's talk about communicating with less. And don't forget that if you have a creative business and you want to learn more about branding and graphic design for your creative business, then be sure to subscribe to this channel. Remember that a lot can be said with very basic design elements. A color can evoke an emotion or inspire an action. A font can set a tone and create an aspiration or a feeling. And it can impact perception as well. A line can direct the eye. Shapes can direct you through a page and can tell a story. And size can create hierarchy and highlight the importance of things. So little tiny things can say a lot. You don't have to try and attempt to tell the whole story and try and show every little detail through visuals. It could be little visual cues that can say a lot. Always ask yourself, how can you say more with less? And that way, when you're communicating visually, it's going to be more clear and direct. And there's not going to be confusion. People aren't going to get lost and not know what to look at first and not know what you're really trying to get at. And they'll feel overwhelmed. And we don't want people to feel overwhelmed. We want them to just really get a clear, strong message so that they take action. Because if you're overwhelming and confusing people, they're more likely to just walk away because it's just all too much for them. You don't have to feel like you need to say everything either. Think about what the most important things you want to get across across are and how you can very simply say that. And if you do want to say a little bit more, how you can also say that too, but keeping it simple so it's not overwhelming. You want your message to be clear, quickly understood and direct. You're removing distractions. That way people are not sidetracked and they can make a quick judgment whether it's something that they're interested in or not. And if they are interested, they're able to take action quickly because you've made it clear what you have to offer and what you're all about, and then they can decide very quickly. Trying to make it confusing and complex isn't going to make them hang around longer or get to know you more. It's just going to put them off, and we don't want that. Simple design is more restful and clear. It communicates with ease, and that's something we want. We don't want people to feel all dizzy and overwhelmed looking at our things. We want people to feel at ease, and then that's going to build trust as well. A good way to do this is to make sure that every detail of the design has a purpose. Why did you put that in there? Why is that an important part of the design? Did you just put it in just for a bit of fun or just because you thought it looked pretty? Or does it have an actual purpose? Does it actually help towards your goal of what you're trying to communicate to that person? When you design minimally, every single element matters. Is your font trying to give people the right perception about you? Are the colors evoking the emotions you want in people? Are the images helping them to better understand what it's all about? Is your typography really clear and concise so people know what to read first and how to take action? Are you using line and shape so that people know what to look at first and direct their eye? In many ways, you need to get back to the basics of design and really make sure that everything is playing a part in that communication. So how do you know when enough is enough? You know that moment when you're designing and you're like, should I add a little bit more? Or, is it too much now? Should I take something out? That really tricky moment when it's hard to decide when is enough enough, when is it time to just pull back and stop and say that's it, it's finished now. I think the reason why simplicity can be hard to accomplish is because we feel the need to over deliver. In an attempt to feel liked and admired and please people, we over deliver on the design. We try too hard to make it really impressive and wonderful rather than thinking about this core purpose and making sure that it actually does what it needs to do rather than just showing off. So how do you decide when enough is enough? Although there is a place for detailed design, often something can be done really simply, but we just keep adding more and more details that just aren't necessary. It may be that we're attempting to please and validate our ability, trying to prove ourselves and our capabilities. Or it may be that we just don't know what we're doing and we think the more that we add, it will somehow magically get better. So it really can help to ask yourself, why do you want to add more? What about it doesn't feel right yet? Is it that the design feels off or that you're just trying to make it more amazing? If the design is feeling off, often what you need to do is just move things around. If everything is there to communicate the message, but you just feel like something about the page is a bit off, it may be more about moving things around and just getting things in the right positioning so that it works better. And if you're just trying to make it really impressive and amazing, then all you're going to do is actually end up making it worse. Good design is actually invisible. When it looks less designed, that means it's actually better designed. When it does its job just so perfectly that everything is so carefully considered and important that it doesn't look like this thing that's been so amazingly designed, it just looks like it needs to look. It just really communicates well and nicely. Things don't look out of place, things aren't confusing, things aren't overwhelming. It's restful to the eye, and the design as such is almost invisible because it doesn't feel like somebody's agonized over it. This doesn't mean that you can't have special little details, because subtle little details can add delight, but you actually have to consider why you're adding it. Is it because I want to add a little element of delight and something unexpected? Or is it because I'm trying to overcompensate, or because it doesn't feel right yet? What is your reasoning? Really be careful and thoughtful about everything that you're adding to your design. You really want to be thoughtful and considerate, and that way everything has a purpose. That way you're going to communicate really clearly through your design. So let's talk about the mindset shift to design more simply. It's the same mindset shift you go through when you try to minimize anything, whether it's decluttering your home or trying to simplify your business. Anything in your life where you're trying to simplify, it's the same kind of mindset shift you have to go through when you're trying to minimize your design and design more simply. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of when do I stop, how do I know when it's enough, should I add more, rather thinking, what can I take away? Where is there too much going on? What can I remove? What is unnecessary or distracting or not bringing joy? What has no purpose or function? Was something added just because it looks nice, or just because I'm overcompensating? Or just because I really loved it and just had to add it in because I thought it was really cool? Or, just wanted to try it out? Because we all have those moments where we see something cool and like, I really want to do that. And you just throw it in your design. But really it wasn't needed for that particular design. You just wanted to do it. Or was it filling a void? So try taking away. Think about what can you remove from the design. What is there that's just unnecessary? How can you keep it as simple as possible? Ask yourself questions about why you put things in those places. Why did you put that there? What was the purpose for that? What is it bringing to the design? Because as I said before, it's okay to add little delightful details if they have a purpose. If it's because you want to add an element of delight and excitement. But if you're just adding it there just because, then maybe it needs to go away. It can also help to come back to things with a fresh eye. Move away for a moment if you're feeling overwhelmed and unsure about your design, and then come back to it with fresh eyes. Or even get someone else to look at it with fresh eyes and give you some feedback and thoughts about what maybe is distracting, what maybe just isn't helping your design out, that can be taken out and removed. Ask them if it conveys the message, if it really communicates what you want it to communicate, or if there's something there that they feel just isn't adding to what you're trying to get across. Just as in life, when it comes to design, less is more. Often the simplest design can have the greatest impact. It's about more than just beauty, but purposeful communication and connection. Simple design is about maximum effect with careful and considered minimal elements. So I hope this video has inspired you to try and design more simply and try and communicate more with less when it comes to your design work. And of course, if you want more tips about branding, graphic design, and creativity, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.